Hello and welcome back to the Let's Backflip Show happy hour. For a second there, I was like, what show is this? We do so many. We don't. I'm Ryan, streaming once in a while. I have a whole different intro for when I do other streaming stuff. So I was like stopping myself doing that other intro. I'm co-creative director here at Backflip. Joining me as always, it's Little John. Hey, Little John. Let's make you a little bigger. There we go. How's it going, dude?
Yes, I am John, co-creative director.
Streaming here Monday through Friday mornings.
Podcasts, and like to keep it that way.
This is it. You've got a lot more facial hair for this one, though. Anyone who's watching the video, you just look like an older man. It's happening.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I love it. When I grow up, I want to be able to grow facial hair.
I mean, me too. But so far, not so much.
Yeah, it's bad. You're still like 100 times more than I could, even when I try. But that's not why people are here. People are here to hang out with this person. Alexis,
Woo!
How's it going?
Going great. How are you guys?
We're great. Did you guys get libations? Good. I brought like a bunch of NAs, but I forgot to get my beer.
Yes.
I have some creamy root beer.
Ooh, getting sloshed on Zevia.
Oh, yeah.
Zevia sloshed.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah, hashtag not a
we
sponsor.
Can send
what do you got, John?
In there to just like bring her things.
I love it. Did you get some drink?
Are you talking to
hear me? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So sorry. Yeah. I have in the.
Oh, look at that.
In the Drink Awesome glass.
So beautiful.
I'm in.
And it looks like this because there used to be like a lot of bubbles.
Some Hawk Jones.
Carbon 4 Hawk Jones. And sponsored by The Rock. And
Dwayne.
I
called up
by
Dwayne.
Ryan
I love it. I'm gonna in the middle of this go get one of those Lagunitas NAs. Those are so good. But I've always got the trusty Coca-Cola and some coffee. So we're gonna take right off. But all right. So on this show, we just kind of hang out and talk with whoever we bring on, often business people, people in the industry, film, production, just whoever is entertaining. And we've done it once before, but I hadn't even thought of it. And Hannah was like, oh, you should have Alexis on. It's like, we should absolutely have Alexis on. So we've got Alexis Bakken on production and editing intern. But why don't you give us a little bit more of your intro instead of me?
An intro? Yeah.
Who are you?
I'm Alexis. Yes, I'm the production intern, editing intern here at Backflip. I started about 2 months ago, maybe middle of May. So I've been here a little bit, and it's been wonderful. I am also a student at UW-Madison. I'm entering my senior year, and I am majoring in majoring in journalism with a certificate in cinema production. But yeah, and I tell people that I majored in journalism to learn that I don't actually want to do it. And so I got the certificate instead. And that's why I'm here, because I love editing and filmmaking and all of that. So I do love writing, but not as much for broadcast or news, more for creative things. So yeah.
To be clear, not the journalism side.
Correct.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yes.
And let's see. So you wanted to get into journalism. Why journalism? Why did you decide to major in journalism? What kind of led you to that path and the film path?
Well, I was the kind of kid who just wanted to be an actor in Hollywood and direct films and do all of that until I learned that it was kind of crazy out there. So, I was like, yeah, that's not the most realistic. And also I don't want to move out of Wisconsin. So where am I going to go to college and what am I going to do? And I was really good at writing. I did a lot of creative writing. I was always loved by my teachers. They always were very impressed by my writing. So during
No big deal.
conferences. Yeah, no big deal. Just, all that. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so during parent-teacher conferences one year, one of my teachers, my English teacher, said, "You should look into journalism because you're a great writer." And that was the first time I ever thought about it. And then I got hooked up with an internship at a newspaper, which wasn't great. I was editing obituaries and just like removing spaces because a lot of people would write and then they would do like the triple spacing and I would have to go through it and delete all the extra spaces. So I
Yeah,
was
just
like,
one
wow,
space, right?
this isn't fun. Yeah. So that was my introduction to journalism. But then as I researched more, I realized that there's a lot more to going out of the world, doing interviews, writing articles, doing all the production side of things, which I really liked. So it seems like a more realistic, attainable goal and path to take that could help me get into the whole, production side of things, camera work, things like that. So I never thought about going into film just because I didn't think there were any schools in Wisconsin that actually had a program for that. So I was like, I'll just do journalism because why not? And I'll learn from there. So I only applied to UW schools in Wisconsin that I knew had a journalism major, and UW was one of those. So yeah, and then I got into the journalism school, and it was really cool. And I really appreciate like how hard people work in the school, and that's why I've stayed in it. But and I also really love the whole like social part of it, like getting to meet people, getting to interview people, and telling stories. That's ultimately what I love so much about it, is telling people stories, which is also why I love video. So
Yeah, that's what we do.
yeah.
We're storytellers.
Exactly. That's why I love it.
Yeah, where did you grow up, did you say?
Little Chute, Wisconsin.
Little Chute. Where's
Tiny
that?
village
Not
up
the big
north.
Chute.
Yeah, no, there's a Grand Chute. But Little Chute is up by Appleton in the Fox Valley area. We're the tiny
Nice.
town that has a windmill. Yeah, it's great.
You've been claiming your name. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Little
love
Shoes
to
where
kind
my
of
band teacher moved. We had a band teacher in
Little
school,
Shoe.
and then she left. And that's the only thing I know about Little Chute is that's where she went.
What's her name? Maybe I know her.
Miss Amy Piter.
Mrs. Bakken.
Yep, my mom. No, just kidding.
It's your mom.
I was a band kid though.
She might have changed her name because I think she wanted to get away from us and didn't like us.
Oh gosh.
Band director protection
Yeah.
network or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of fun. And I love that you kind of got into it through what you thought you wanted to major in. And then, you have a fourth year coming up, the 25% of your school expenses. Probably just stay the course makes the most sense. But like, could you like just switch majors? Does it make any sense? Like, or is it helpful to have like a journalism major?
Yeah, I thought about it. I originally wanted to go to UW because they had a journalism major, so I was like, I'll try that out. But also, if I don't like it, there's tons of other things at Madison, so that'll be nice. And so I came in with journalism major and certificate in creative writing because I wanted to be an author and write like, cool fantasy series and things like that. But then I took a creative writing class and really didn't like it at all because I realized that people in the industry of writing are very critical, which makes sense. Like people, they had to read your stuff and edit
and
it.
A lot of content. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't like that because it was just a fun hobby I had of doing creative writing. And then all of a sudden people were like, actually, I didn't understand this character. And why did you do this? And this kind of was weird. I didn't understand this. And I was like, well, this is annoying. I don't want this. So I got rid of that and then looked into other options and saw that they had the cinema production certificate. And upon reading it, I was like, this is everything I love, like going out, shooting films, editing, learning how to use a camera, lighting, like everything, which I had dabbled in a decent amount in high school. And I just didn't think it was something that you could actually do like
For like school
locally.
projects, or
Yeah.
were you just that nerdy?
Well, kind of. I had a cinema production class that I took in high school. It was like digital media or something, but you could make your own films and things like that. Um, so I did that. I always liked art classes too. So I just liked all creative things. And then I also would be the one who would always make little highlight reels for family on vacations and things like that. Um, I remember I had this little, I don't even know what they're called, but just the tiny little cameras that used to be all the rage.
Like a point and shoot or a video camera?
Like a point and shoot.
Okay.
Just a normal standard like digital camera you could buy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really cheap. I had one of those. It was pink, and I would just bring it around and take a bunch of photos of things and take videos and things like that. So, so I would make highlight reels for all of our family vacations, and I was like, this is fun because I love music, and just the idea of getting to put music together with video, and suddenly it turned into something that was inspirational and cool. I really liked that. It was very satisfying. So, so yeah, so that was kind of the start. And I was a little nerdy. Like I would do some of my own things, or I would go above and beyond, and like teachers would be like, okay, like you can choose your format of media that you want to do for this project. And a lot of people would just do a presentation, like a Google presentation. And I would be like, I'm going to make a full on video with B-roll and everything. So I guess that was kind of my nerdy side, but yeah.
It may not surprise you to know too that John and I also have very similar experiences in that regard.
Well, that's great.
People get started. We had the one that still blows my mind today is like there was a final project for. Well, there's caveats to this, but we'll just skip those. You might ask, why was the final project for Spanish 4 a diorama or anything other than just speaking a lot of Spanish? I don't know. But this final project for Spanish was a diorama. And my group, we were like, hey, can we do a film instead? And they're like, yeah, sure. So we made this a spoof of like VH1's Behind the Band. But it was Behind the Tribe.
Oh, wow.
It was about the Olmec civilization. And it was ridiculous. And I can't believe that that's what we did for Spanish 4 final. But
it was probably amazing, though.
We did. It was amazing. Yeah.
No, yeah. One of the videos that I made in high school was for Spanish 2. I mean, it was a Get Ready With Me in Spanish, but I made a video of it. So, and I still have it, and it's very cringy. But I'm
trying to think of what I did.
Start.
So you have to bring that up, at least into the office. Maybe we won't put it out there online.
It's just on my Google Photos or whatever. It's saved. Yes. I have it.
So you could share it right now.
I could. I'm not going to though.
I'm just saying. You know, we have a captive audience right now. Yeah, I think I had a lot of stuff that I did that was not for school too. Like I remember like a music video for a song from a like shanty Canadian like shanty or Irish kind of music band called Great Big Sea. Their song Donkey Riding. We had like an ATV and we made a music video out of it. And I almost like died because we were doing Star Wars action scenes. Like we were rehearsing them. And like I fell through in a hayloft, like a trap door for the ladder. Like I wasn't paying attention, stepped back into it. Luckily I like caught myself with my arms because it was like I don't know, 20-foot drop or something. It was way up there. And then my buddy laughed at me and then got me out of there. But that was for a only partially filmed Star Wars fanfic.
Wow.
Maybe I can find.
You have that? Can you bring that out?
Exactly. Bring out all the embarrassing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a lot of fight videos, which just involved a lot of like jumping off of things. Jumped off the roof of many garages.
Oh, dang.
Which, then you try to like do. Okay, so one of the first ones I ever did, I think it was in 6th grade. I didn't have an NLE, nonlinear editor. I didn't have like a editing software. And so we did our tricks all like in camera, and then I dubbed from that tape to the tape was like a high 8 or something like that.
Okay.
But dubbed from that to a VHS tape to edit it together. So we like shot the scenes, and then I would like, I didn't have like sophisticated equipment. Yeah. It was just the DIY version, but like, okay, hit play and record, and record that clip onto the master tape, and then stop, and then get the next clip that I wanted, including a big jump that's like, higher than you could jump. That was done by like jumping off in reverse. And then I had to make it work. I had to like hold down the reverse button on the camera while recording.
Like scrub it backwards.
Oh, wow.
That's super fun.
That's high tech.
So I never had like a reel-to-reel machine, but I went through the very DIY process to make that work.
Yeah, our first film was done on VHS as well. So same thing with 2. You probably didn't even grow up with VHS.
I had VHS.
Like 2 tape decks. Do you have older siblings?
One, but she's only 1.5 years older.
She probably has older parents.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, they're not that old, actually. But, I mean, we had VHS, and we had all my Barbie movies were VHS, so I'd watch them. And our Disney movies, like old, we still have them all. We had all the Star Wars VHS and, like, Star Trek.
You got to keep those
like
original
Little
Star
Mermaid,
Wars because the
things like
movies
that.
have changed. They've been re-edited and special effects put back in. Yeah.
They might be valuable now.
Yeah. No, they're worth so much money.
Not.
I have them. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, your parents are probably only a little bit older than John and I.
Yeah, they're
That's
like
probably what I would guess.
47. I think my mom's 47. My dad is 50.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Okay, your parents are a little older.
I'm just saying that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how old you guys are.
Well,
I could guess.
I know. I think you guessed in the wrong direction. But like the idea, because I was like, okay, you're a senior or whatever. You're like 21. If you have an older sibling, 22, so maybe like 42, 45. Was my guess. So they're like 3 years older than I was guessing.
Yeah.
So then you just need to go, for your own illustration, Ryan, you go back to when you had your last VHS or when you were using it, and then carry that 10 years forward, and then be like any young family where you're like, well, we've got this, let's just keep using this.
Yeah, right.
That's what we did.
It still works. I don't know why we need a disc video drive or whatever DVD stands for, something like that.
It's kind of crazy. I was thinking about this, how my generation is like the last generation to go to like family video and actually pick out movies and like go with your siblings and be like, what do we want to watch? And you're running up and down the aisle trying to find a movie you want. And sometimes they're out and you're really sad.
Yeah. Did you guys do that a lot? I feel like I even have friends who like maybe a little younger than me who didn't go to movie stores. And I'm just like amazed. I'm like, that's what we did like twice a week, every Friday.
Yeah, we do it all the time.
We'd
go to the library, get books. We'd go to the family video down the street and pick out movies every Friday. Sometimes you could pick out like PS2 games and you could rent those.
Yeah.
And we'd play on our PS2. And then Redbox came out. That was a big deal because suddenly you could just push some buttons and it would spit out a movie for you. So we had that. So we transitioned to that, and then slowly things started to change.
What about Netflix? Did you guys not hit Netflix in between?
We eventually got there, but we had bought so many movies because like every holiday, every birthday, almost like every Easter, we'd get whatever movies we really loved. So we just have closets of movies. And then my dad started like doing all these techie things and putting them, like he could upload the discs or whatever somehow, I don't know how it works, onto the computer, so then we could watch them via this, I don't know, streaming service we have.
Probably.
Yeah, something like that. And then so we were able to watch some of the movies that we had online. But I remember the coolest thing is we got these portable movie players, and we could take the movies on the road, which
with
is
like a
great.
DVD player.
Yeah. So that's how I first watched Lord of the Rings, was on my little portable movie
on the
player.
Screen. Yeah,
and they're like this big. It was amazing.
Have you since seen them large on a big screen or bigger screen? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like, and you might have thrown this out at another point over the last couple months, month and a half in our conversations, but I feel like you really waved your nerd flag there, talking about wanting to write fantasy.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings as well. What's kind of your relationship with, narrative fantasy or sci-fi, or, like, is that what you like to read?
Yeah, I mean, I was known as like the Harry Potter girl in my youth because I was obsessed with it. I just I could quote it all the time. I had all this random merch, like my whole room. Well, a big section of my room is just Harry Potter themed. It's all over random things. I have like my own Quidditch jersey, like Quidditch set, like a quaffle ball. I have that. We all my siblings and I have our own wands that we got at Ollivander's in the Wizarding World. All sorts of things. We just I'd say my sister's more of a nerd than I am. Like she not only can quote all the movies and everything like that, but she also just has read the book so many times that she can just pull everything out. But so we're a big Harry Potter family. I can't even count how many times I dressed up as Hermione.
Have you stayed at the Harry Potter, like a Harry Potter Airbnb?
Like that's no, I didn't know that was a thing.
Okay, I'll pull it up and show it. I think I have a friend going to Florida this week or next week who's staying at a Harry Potter Airbnb. Like that's how you know if you're nerdy. I feel like everybody's kind of nerdy. I would do that in HP. But to be
it's
really
easy to
nerdy,
be a nerd about.
Ever dressed up?
Have I ever dressed up?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My brother has a Slytherin costume from the actual Wizarding World. Like he bought one of the Slytherin robes and everything. So I just had like the one you could order, like the Gryffindor tie. I would put together, the sweater, the collared shirt, the skirt, with my wand and all of that. So I have some pictures of that. But that would just be my default for costumes, for Halloween costumes.
Yeah, it's kind of easy to pull off once you have it too. Let's see. I waited in line for, I don't know if it was the 7th book, the 6th book, maybe one of those. I waited in line at like Barnes and Noble. This was maybe in college, I think. So yeah, we're pretty nerdy too. My girls have dressed up as Harry Potter. I'm trying to look. I have a picture or a video of Claire, who's here in the office right now working. We're at Ollivander's in Universal in the Harry Potter world, and they choose her to pick a wand. So then she goes through
I was
the whole
also
thing
chosen.
Yeah, there you go. And then they're like,
crazy thing.
This is the perfect wand. Good. Congratulations. Okay, now go over there. There's a register. And then they're like, yeah, it's whatever, however much it is.
$500.
Yeah, exactly. And we bought it, because you have to.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a really fun experience.
Yeah, I'm a big Harry Potter nerd. But then I also just was a huge book nerd, so I was super into Harry Potter, obviously, and then I moved on to Hunger Games. I loved those books and movies. Percy Jackson, Lord of the Rings. Let's see, like literally any other big series besides Twilight. I was like, that was a no-go.
Yeah,
but
I read those, and I was just like, I hate this, but I can't stop it.
Yeah, I didn't
like
even
she
read
does.
Do you
them.
enjoy the movie adaptations of all of those, or are there some that are better, better done, and some that you don't like, or
Percy Jackson sucks. I will say that. Like
The movie.
the movies. The
Yeah.
books were
Well, they have a
so
series
good.
coming out, so
Yeah, I saw that. I hope it's better because I don't know. I know Rick Riordan is like involved in the whole process of that. And I don't think he was very involved in the movie adaptations of it.
sure.
So I'm
Which kind of
sure it'll
happens.
be yeah. So hopefully it's
Yeah.
a lot better. Plus, a show gives you so much time to get all the good details in, which is what they totally missed out in the movies. So
Yeah. So to John's question, Harry Potter movies,
Potter.
good ones, bad ones that, were good adaptations.
I just being such a movie nerd, I just love the movies in general. Like I just think they're great movies, and I grew up with them, so they're still great movies. So I'm able to kind of like separate that a little bit from the books themselves. Like the books are awesome and wonderful, and definitely better than the movies, but the movies are still pretty great. Besides,
Yeah.
well, the fifth one is really really great, but they left out a lot of key details.
Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah. Like full on plot lines and everything. So I was like, that's interesting. But they still made a good movie. So
Yeah. And then you make the seventh movie into two. And I was like, I guess I don't remember this much in the book. It's like we kind of went here, destroyed a Horcrux. We kind of went here. Then there was some angsty teening, and then we had our grand battle.
yeah.
that whole
Maybe I'm
turning
oversimplifying.
books into a single book into multiple movies. I know they've done it in many different things, but
Oh yeah.
somebody's got to figure that out, because I'm like, I think it was Harry Potter specifically. I remember sitting in that movie, and then the first part of 7 or whatever ended, and I was like,
You're like,
okay, so this is a movie where nothing happens. Where there's no arc, because like the whole book has the beginning, climax, and ending, but like if you cut that in half, then you're just cutting somewhere in the middle of the buildup, like.
Right. And spoilers, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse did that. There was like 2 times when I was like, oh, if this was episodic, it would end here. And then the second time I was like, oh, if this is episodic, it would end here. And then it was like, this will continue in the next movie or whatever. And you're like, oh, come on. Right in the middle of that plot. I think you need to do like a limited series or something like they're doing with Percy Jackson. They're doing with Wheel of Time. They're doing a terrible job with the Wheel of Time one. I don't know. Did you read Robert Jordan? Did you read Wheel of Time?
I think so. Wheel of Time.
It's like 14 books. Randall Thor, he's the Dragon Reborn. I've read them so many times. It was finished by Brandon Sanderson. So
okay, no.
Robert Jordan died.
I never read that.
Okay. You should read those if you want to get into like depending on how long you read or how fast you read, a 3-month to 1 year book club with yourself. You should read those.
I'm an extremely slow reader.
Yeah, me too. I recommend Audible.
So maybe not.
Yeah. What about Brandon Sanderson?
I
Oh,
haven't heard of him.
Alexis.
Sorry.
Maybe after this conversation, after this live stream, we'll have another conversation about that. You tell me more of what you like, and I will pick the perfect Robert or Brandon Sanderson book for you to get in to that universe.
Great. Sounds good.
You have to do it.
This is probably a typical Ryan thing, though, where he'll like identify somebody as like, oh, you're a nerd in this, and then he's like, let me share, and then that person's like, oh, I don't think I was at the level that you are talking about.
Yeah, we'll have to see her nerdiness.
Yeah.
So Aaron is on YouTube, friend of ours and filmmaker. He's got some actual questions that we could actually get to. How did we find Alexis? Alexis, how'd you find us, or how did we find you?
Oh, this is actually a kind of crazy thing. I worked at Camp Gray last summer, which is a Catholic summer camp, as their photographer, videographer. And it was great. It was wonderful. But towards the end, I was like, yeah, I can see myself not doing this next summer. Because a lot of people kind of stay there like all 4 years of college, and then they get out and they're like, what am I doing with my life? And so I wanted to kind of, start finding better opportunities, especially since I wanted to go into the production world. So I was just one day at the lunch table talking to one of my friends about what I want to do. And I was like, I would love to work for like a smaller company, one that does a lot of fun things, like good energy, production, has similar like I don't know, just
values or
values and
beliefs. You could say that.
everything like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And he was like, oh, well, one of my friends works for this company called Backflip. I could hook you up. And I was like, wow, that's great. I didn't even know they were a thing. And then I looked you guys up and was super impressed by the website.
Wait,
It's
who
a
is
cool
this friend?
company. His name's Ben Sanders.
Ben Sanders. How's he connected? Does he know?
He was friends
Luke or
with
John?
Emily.
Oh, he knew Emily. Cool.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
friends in college.
That's
so
awesome.
then this was crazy. Later, so I was like, well, I have plenty of time. I will take my time reaching out. So then I finished camp, went back to school, doing all the things I do. And then I was talking to a different friend, one of the missionaries at St. Paul's, and he was telling me, I was again telling him about all the things I want to do. And he was like, wow, I had a friend who worked for this company called Backflip. And I was like, oh my goodness, I heard about that place a month ago. I should definitely look into it. And then literally that same week on Sunday, I bumped into him again after mass, and he was like, oh my goodness, that friend I was talking about, she's here. And she was just hanging out with her husband in the lobby, and we got introduced, and she was like, oh, totally, I'll connect you guys. So then got connected, had an interview, and here I am. So it was great. It really worked out.
I love that. It just took, the right prompting several times.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, okay, I don't think she's going to go look this up. It's like Providence. I don't think she's going to go look this up. Why don't I put the people right in front of her that she can talk to?
Eventually I was gonna reach out anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally was going to, I totally was going to.
No, this
totally
happened in
was
like September when I was introduced to her. And originally I was going to wait until October, November-ish to get the ball rolling, because I didn't think people would be interested in interviewing at all. But then, yeah, I talked to Scott and he was like, oh yeah, we're ready. So
yeah, recommendations from people at St. Paul's or Emily, or just people we know or are connected to. It's amazing how, I mean, it makes sense. You see it in like shows, but then like, I feel like this is the first time, not the first time, but this is now, I realize it's like reality in business is like who is really important, because a recommendation goes such a long way. Like Emily was fantastic, and she worked here until her husband moved away, and then she moved out there and then got a job where her husband was. And she was maybe the first person aside from John and myself, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember, any like interns from St. Paul's. The first intern we got, and just a boss lady, what was it, director or board member for Badger Catholic, and just running various things, and hard worker. So then when it came to a recommendation or a recommendation for you, and we get that from somebody like that we trust, it's like, oh my gosh, like get them in here right away. We'll try to figure out what the future holds and what we need. But that recommendation is so key, so important.
Oh yeah. I feel like I didn't necessarily go to college to learn a bunch of stuff. I came to college to network, which is what has got me all the opportunities I've been given.
I think
which
that's
is
what
awesome.
people often find that in hindsight. We get asked that question. We probably shared it, plenty and tons on this podcast too. It's just like the skills that you pick up, in this industry in college. Like, yeah, there's some things that you learn, and to their credit, I I do still reference certain filmmakers that we studied, like when we're out on a shoot working on something. It's like, oh, what if we did kind of a, whatever Ozu thing here?
Tattoo
But
Iron Man.
yeah, Tetsuo Iron Man. But yeah, like you said, there's a lot of people that are just like, well, it's more about the people that you meet and connections that you make, just being out in the world and, forced to find your own way and meet people and talk about what you're doing next. I mean, that's kind of the environment.
I've got bad news for everyone too. The Supreme Court just said, no, we're not going to pay your student loans off. So you better take care of them yourselves. So,
Darn.
really good news. Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
hey,
you could always just stop
those-
school and just start working.
those
whatever.
empty
I've
promises.
thought about that many times.
All those empty promises those politicians have made. Yes, they were empty.
Wait, turns out they're empty?
What?
I love it. John 2024. Yeah, and then I think there was two more people too at like random points. Kelly, what I always forget her last name.
Trumbull.
Kelly Trumbull.
Queen.
And oh my gosh, I'm losing all the things in my brain. I'm just gonna go to sleep, take a nap. I'll be back in 5. What the heck's his name? Camp Gray and young guy.
Tim? Shane Reinbold.
He's been on the podcast and he's a friend. I've drank with him at my house and I can't remember his name. My brain is not working. So then there's even more contacts going on. Maybe after I think you were like, yeah, I'm going to start an internship there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I remember there are a ton of people after I mentioned, because of course the main question when you kind of hit close to the springtime, everyone's like, what are you doing this summer? And I would be like, oh, I'm working for a production company in Madison. And they're like, oh, which one? And every time I mention Backflip, they're like, oh my gosh, I know those guys. So tons of connections. It's a small world. And then I bumped into John randomly, being in the same community. I was talking to one of the moms, and she was like, oh my gosh, I think John literally co-owns that place. And I was like, John?
Yeah.
Who's that? And then he was there and brought me over.
He's like,
and I was like,
that guy over there with the guitar jamming.
Yeah. I was like, I think I'm working for your company.
Well, and again, like, okay, so this is not, more networking connections related to the entire industry and not just our company. Because I was going to make the joke that Ryan's daughter Claire mentioned somebody, at lunch today, like, oh yeah, these people, the neighbors or whatever, and Ryan mentioned their last name. I was like, yeah, I know them. She's like, oh, I didn't know that you would know them. I'm like, I know everybody, like all the the circle is, very tight. But as we've gone forward in business, I think we've learned over 15 years that like half the battle is just staying around long enough so that you've met enough people that you have network to all these places. Because we've done these projects, interviews for the silver medal award winners, which is like this, prestigious award for people after they've been in the industry and, done a lot of great work and done service and things like that. And we get to hear them tell these stories about how they started this agency or how they got into this place and that place. And the stories sound very regular. They're just like, oh yeah, well, I was in college, with this person, and then I moved down here, and then I got a call one day and they were like, hey, they're opening up a new thing. And I thought of you and you'd be great. So I moved back, and yeah, we've known each other for a long time. And you're just like, oh, okay. So that's how you build these like these businesses and these agencies and stuff. You just be around, and I mean, you got to be good at what you do, but like,
yeah, that's a given though.
Make the connections, and there you go.
Well, I kind of wanted to comment on that too, because like connections and references are so good and so important. However, we also have kind of a barrier of threshold of skill Like we want to see that people are gonna do things well and be able to jive with the team well. And that's eventually why you were hired. And yeah, maybe talk a little bit about what interests you in what you've done so far. Because now you're editing one of these Wisconsin Indigenous Economic Development Council videos. You're telling a story. I feel like you've got great timing. You've got, and I'm trying to also recall what you shared with us before we hired you, but you've got great timing with that work, with the music, with the cuts, with the feel and the emotion of the piece, which is, like I said, ultimately why we were able to bring you on. So what, I don't know, what over the last month and a half has kind of piqued your interest the most?
I think just just the environment is amazing. I really love the smaller, the smaller field. Like we're a tight knit crew. There's only 7 of us, 6 of us. Sorry, I can't do math, but which is really awesome because you get to know everyone really, really well. Whereas even in my film classes, it's maybe 15 people, but you only really know the people you're working with, which in some classes was like 3 people. And I'm like, wow, I was in this class all semester with these same 15 people and I still don't know their names, So I love the, how close everyone is, that we are a small team. So that aside, looking at just the video part of it, I love the balance between the things. I love that I get to go out on shoots and actually be a part of that production process and helping be a PA. But then I also love then getting to take all that footage and actually creating something beautiful about it, and telling the story. Because a lot of times when you're, actually, sometimes when you just are given footage and then you're just like, okay, edit it. It's like, oh, this is interesting. I'm staring at this person and listening to their voice for hours and hours and hours for weeks, depending on the project, but I've never even met them. So I really love getting to do that as well. Not just being an editor, because then I get to actually meet the people and get to know their personalities and what they would really appreciate in a video. But then with editing, especially this Dog City video I'm doing, it's just been really fun I think what I love the most is how satisfying it is to take just a bunch of random footage and then make something beautiful about it, and use your creativity and use your judgment to make it into a really cool video. And like I said, I love music. I have always been a big music person. So getting to work with music and thinking about what beats and what part of this song is going to fit well with what she's saying and what the point of the story and what are the most intense parts, what are the most emotional parts, and how does this all fit together? And then also getting to use B-roll and how can I best portray what she's saying and make it more emotional by adding in footage. So I love that. And even before I started working here, I knew I wanted to go into more documentary style video editing and production, just because I love, from what I've taken from journalism, is just the love of interviewing people and getting to meet people, hear their stories and tell their stories. So I love doing those stories when I get to write an article about someone's life. It's really rewarding. So I love getting to do that on the video side, with meeting them, hearing their story, interviewing them, and then bringing that and creating something beautiful out of it. So
I love what you're saying there too. And, I don't know what the future holds, but if we are fortunate enough to hold on to you, it sounds like kind of producerly, and creative. Cause that's a lot of what John and I do. John and I are basically the only 2 people in the company who can do that. And we have been able to bring on Max actually to help out with that as well. But he's obviously an editor and a writer. So there's a lot of other work that has to get done there as well. But that seems like a great skill set to be someone who interviews and kind of drives creative through the journalistic aspect of the documentary filmmaking.
Yeah, and that's where I've seen a lot of things from the major and the certificate merge throughout my time at school. Just how trained we've been, because the journalism school at Madison is one of the best in the country, which I didn't
Oh,
know
cool.
going into
Wow.
it, but it really is. We have really great professors, and they know a lot and are able to teach us really well. So a lot of my instructors in my classes haven't been actual professors. They've been people who are in the industry who come in and teach class. So
Yeah, that's so valuable.
yeah, so I had an instructor she was a writer at the Cap Times, and she taught my class this past semester. And she just told us everything we needed to know about interviewing tips, how to get a good story, how to have empathy, and especially when you're maybe interviewing something about a challenging topic. Yeah, and like how to write things that are controversial. I had to write a number of more controversial stories this past year, and it was a good learning curve for me to learn how to write in a way that wasn't gonna upset anyone. Like
Yeah.
that was very unbiased, which I know is hard in the journalism
That's
world, and that's a lot of people hate journalists
very
because of that.
that's very, very interesting to hear that, like having come through the other side of that degree. So there's the communication arts colon, and then there's two directions at UW for all the views, for everyone watching who's curious. And I want to do film production. So I went, film, radio, TV side. And then there's a journalism side. I'm like, I don't want to be a newspaper reporter. But hearing you talk now and some of the stories you've told too, I'm just like, wow, there's like a lot of really good stuff there that might have been better or would better prepare somebody for this industry that we're in than the film, radio, TV, because that was like communication arts, film, radio, TV. There's a little bit of hands-on stuff, but a lot of the classes are like studying historic film, studying TV, like how TV developed and programs and networks and things, and then radio as well.
Right.
But the actual, like, that's what we always say, like, well, I didn't really like learn how to do any of this until I got out of school, and like I learned a lot of it just on my first internship with another company, where it was a small company and I get to work very closely with the director and the editor, and I just was a sponge and just absorbed as much as possible, and then learned a lot of it, once we just learned by doing. But
I love that like what you're acknowledging there. And I wonder, like, because the university has even a master's program for film history, maybe. And I feel like some of that came through in our, like you're saying, we watched a lot of stuff and like that was a great perspective. But then you can get like your MFA in acting as well. So I feel like some of that, the classes that I remember, in terms of directing and stuff, might be more associated with that. But I wonder if it makes more sense, because like when we talk about college, like John and I both went to college, but thinking about the industry, I'm like, just go work, take a year off and go work and apprentice, and you'll learn a lot. You won't make the same connections, but you'll learn all the things you need to know. But I wonder if, there's also value if you can make it work and it's not going to break the bank. It's a great experience to go to college. And if you study something else, like study journalism, if you still want to be a filmmaker, because that'll teach you how to be a good documentarian, or study acting, because then that's going to make you an actor's director or something like that. I think Tarantino says, like, go study philosophy or math or something else that can teach you about the world, and then you'll have stories to tell. But that's really cool. I'd love to do maybe a lunch and learn where you could share some of your favorite takeaways, or
teaches journalism.
I would love to.
Teaches how to get the hot tip on the beat.
Yeah. Well, we've done this for so long, and we're always trying to learn and do better. But like going through this wine class with some friends, it's like, oh, there's a black fruit, nose on there, but you're actually going to get like chocolate on the back of the tongue. When you hear that, then you taste something and you're like, oh, I think I can tell. And then you try something later and eventually you're like, no, this is a black fruit, or yeah, it's got, chocolate on the back. You learn how to call and identify things out. Like John and I have different styles, but we're both very good at getting kind of the story from our subject. And there's lots of different ways to do it, but also hearing kind of here's the journalist perspective and some of the interesting things I saw. I think it just can help to put words, even if maybe we've never talked about, our best techniques, like hearing that you're like, yes, this is it. And I'm going to lean into that way that I do it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's
that's
really,
why you should do it.
Yeah. It's really cool too. Just everything, all of the different skills they teach you. Like you said, a lot of the times the basic skills, like they don't really teach you how to edit. They don't really teach you how to use a camera or anything like that in journalism. They just kind of give you one and tell you to figure it out. So I was definitely grateful to have that experience going into it, so I could be the one to be like, okay, guys, this is how you use Premiere Pro, and this is how you do this, because not a lot of people do.
Right.
So I was grateful for that, but it also just, I've had to design so many websites because of my major, and I've had to almost all of my classes you're working with a team, so you're learning how to work with people who you normally wouldn't, who might have very different opinions than you, and you're learning how to, just a lot of what journalism is figuring out different multimedia options to tell a story. So I had to do a project where I created a website, and then I had to make a video, then I had to do a podcast, then I had to write a series of articles, and then I had to make infographics, and then I had to create social media for all one beat. And and it was hard because it takes up a ton of your time, but it was very good for me to learn how to do all of those things, because it's been so applicable in this industry. Obviously, like, you're making a film, but you need to promote it and you need to learn how to do all the marketing side of things. So I've learned a ton on that front.
Yeah, that's
really
amazing.
awesome.
All the things you're saying, it's like business marketing 101 and things like we've had to learn through the years, right? Because technology has changed, but now technology is at a point where, like we started off with video, but then we're like, people are advertising terribly. They're not sharing it in the right way. So let's help them do that, strategize that. But then they also need a website, that can hold it. So all the things you just mentioned are things that we had to eventually realize and add to our suite of capabilities for the reasons you're talking about. So that's really cool to see that.
Yeah. And I realized that at first I was like, well, surely people know how to do this already. Like, it's pretty straightforward to know how to use Instagram, all of that kind of mindset. But then as I started to take up more opportunities and things like that, I realized that people don't know how to do that. And it is really valuable to have someone to be like, hey, can you just help me with the posting every week on my Instagram? Can you help me just, make little clips from my video? Or can you take some photos for marketing for me? And they'll like pay good money for that because they don't know how to do it. And so all of these skills are really, really helpful. It's another reason I picked up photography, is because it's such a valuable skill that a lot of people kind of shy away from, because they're like, oh, I don't know how to use those fancy cameras, but you do, so I'll pay you to do it. And it's like, okay, sure. Like, I can learn how to use a camera. And I've had tons of opportunities just within the past few months to do things just because I know how to use a camera. So,
nice.
Yeah. So it's really cool to be able to have a lot of these skill sets. And too, another thing about journalism that I'm really excited about is, I was talking about all the different multimedia stuff that we do. Next year, I have the opportunity to take a class where we publish a magazine. So the whole class is, the whole semester, you're working together with your team to produce this magazine. So, and
cool.
I'll get to be the photographer for that, I think. Photographer or videographer, I think they'll choose later on. And it's very selective. Like, I had to apply to get into this class, and the journalism school had to select, I think they chose like 15 people out of the 50 who applied. which is really crazy. But it's such a cool opportunity because like not everyone can be like, oh, I know how to produce a magazine. It's a thing that you don't always have the opportunity to do. So that's really cool, and I wouldn't get to do that if I wasn't in the journalism school. So
yeah. The opportunity is really, really awesome and cool.
We're putting video in magazines now, like it's like a Harry Potter kind of magazine.
I have seen that before, not
that would be
not
cool.
regularly, but yeah.
No, yeah, it's definitely for all the marketing side of things.
Yeah, well, there was a company who was doing it like the AR version of it. I think we looked at that a little while ago, John, but it was like, whether in their app or you scan it and then you still hold your phone up to the magazine and something unfolds from the magazine. That's
crazy.
Harry Potter amazingness.
Yeah, what?
That just makes me think too, when the movie came out, it encouraged me more, inspired me more to want, to do more filmmaking. Because I think, what was it? It was like early 2000s.
Yeah, 2000.
The first movie came out
was the first movie.
Yeah.
Well, the book was 1999, I think. The first movie was 2001, maybe.
Yeah. So I was still in like high school and like just kind of continued to light that fire. I was going to ask, now that you've been on a couple of our sets, or maybe just the one.
Been on 2. Yeah.
I feel like you could put together some material and then we could give it to the school of like, here's additional things that you should learn. Because we're setting up like a C-stand, for instance, and this is talking about radio, film, and television, and like the important skills, like knowing how to set up a C-stand, how to put the arm, and that. And I think I showed you, put it off to the right because of tension. And there was one of those things. I don't know if it was that one. I was like, you guys know this, right? And you're like, oh, they did not teach us that. I was like, well, this is a critical lesson.
Yeah. I think it depends on the instructor you have to. Like, I only had one class that taught me how to use a C-stand. And he was just kind of like, this is how you set it up. These are the legs. This is how you do it. This is hard. And I was like, okay. But he didn't tell us about like, oh, this is how you distribute the weight and all of this stuff. Which I'm a very visual learner. So I need someone to stand there and do it in front of me. And then I do it and they watch me and then critique me. But I think he definitely probably had content on our Canvas page. Like, because we had this whole Canvas page that had tons of videos that we were required to watch every week on top of all the other crazy stuff we were doing. And I was like, ain't no way I'm going to get to every single detail of this. So I'm sure there was more detail in there, but yeah, but I didn't. I never saw anything like that, but he had a lot of good things, a lot about lighting, a lot of tips about the camera and things like that is valuable to know. But again, I really like having someone, like being in the same room with a person and doing it hands-on and not just like sitting in my room, like cranking through 20 videos in one night just because I need to get it done, Yeah,
well, and I think we've done it with Luke before with like PAs or grips, like put them through grip school. Like, here's the half an hour where you learn kind of all the important things so people don't lose an eye or something falls on their head, that type of thing, which I would love. That's how I would love to give back. They're always like calling and like, hey, give us money. And I'm like, no, don't have money right now to give you. But I would love it if they like reached out and were like, hey, we'd love to work with you on some education stuff. So, you can help our students get ahead. Like, I think that'd be a really cool way to give back.
That'd be super valuable. We haven't had a ton of actual filmmakers come into our classes and show us things. Like, there have been talks occasionally, but it's cooler to see someone in action, like this is what I do on a daily and let me show you how to do it. I think that would be really valuable.
There was a documentary film class that Ryan and I both took. We were in that class together in school, and the woman, I forget her name, but she was a documentary filmmaker. And that class, I think, was the most valuable class that I took out of my 4 years there. Like, that's the one that I think I kind of took the most out of like how to actually do this. And there was a particular lecture or whatever that I remember where she brought in a guy like a camera operator that she worked with a lot, and then they did like a mock like interview where she's sitting here and somebody's sitting here, and she's like, here's how you do it with one camera, and like he was like going back and forth behind her and behind the other mock interview person, shooting like over the shoulders back and forth, and then she was like kind of pointing things out, like notice how he's getting some of this, but notice how he's also getting some like reaction shots, that are shots like when somebody's not actually talking. And it was just like you said, Alexis, just that visual learning and learn by doing, where you're like seeing it be done and you're like, oh, that makes a ton of sense, but it didn't like solidify in my brain until I saw you doing it. And now I understand that, like, okay, they're interviewing each other for an hour, but I don't need the full hour. I need 30 minutes. I need 10 minutes or whatever. And I will cut this up however I need. And I need those cut points. And so I need reaction shots, and I need, both sides. I think they maybe cut it up later or something, or maybe even on the spot. But that whole class was pretty fascinating. And to that point, she works in it. She was a documentary filmmaker, so a lot of cool things in that class.
Yeah, that's still a class. I've had some classmates talk about that. Unfortunately, is not offered in the time I have left, but which is sad. But it sounds super cool, and definitely, yeah, I've heard a lot of people be like, it's the best class I've ever taken, because I took a cinematography class that was just very, very intense. It was good. I learned a good amount, but it was just crazy. It was like a full-time gig, and I didn't have that time. And then there's like an editing class and then a writing class. I think those are the two I have left to take, but which are probably going to be good. But obviously I know a lot about editing already, so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, are they going to actually teach me things I don't know already, or is it going to be one of those classes where I'm just kind of going through the motions and just getting things done?
And I think, kind of like my thought to have you share kind of your favorites from your communicate or your journalism class of how to interview, right? Just putting words to things. Like there might be ways you do things or techniques that you just kind of do them intuitively. Like you like how it looks, you like how it works. But then once you see it, it's spelled out to you, like an L cut or a J cut or something like that. You're like, oh, that's what it is. Now I can form that more and work more specifically and develop that more specifically. So I imagine it'll be some of that where you're like, okay, the first third of class is, you sleep through. But then there's hopefully some other interesting things in there that kind of help you codify how you do things. Because I imagine by the end of the summer, you'll be pretty comfortable jumping in and editing, and editing with annoying directors and stuff.
Oh, yeah. So annoying.
The worst.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think I'll learn more about how I work and because a lot of the things that I realized in my cinematography class, we did some editing. They wanted us to do things in a certain way that I wasn't used to. And it was like, oh, okay, so now I'm required to do it in this way. So I'm going to learn how to do it. Is that something that's valuable for me to take into my, day-to-day editing style? Or is that something that I don't deem as valuable? So that's always good to learn about how other people do things.
Well, yeah, and you can see kind of how we do things, and by no means did we write a book on it or anything. So there's likely things that we would do that might be less efficient than you would see, and just getting that exposure can be very helpful too. And we're always trying to learn and be the best at everything that we do. That's our expertise. But it's so crazy now because the freaking editing programs are changing monthly. Every few months. And it's like, now you have AI, now you have this, and you have to really research and read. And so that learning, that collegial interaction is super useful because AI editing to do an assembly, that might be great we've only heard a little bit about it and it looks pretty great, but then somebody's going to have to explore it and, figure out how to do it, because there's not yet anyone out there teaching. And, if you have to use it, you got to learn to teach yourself these things too.
Yeah, that's true. There's always new things coming out that you kind of have to reteach yourself. And it's cool to be doing it for a good amount of time, like definitely not as long as most people, but even still, like just a testament to how quickly things change is like just a few years ago you weren't able to do very simple things, and now all of a sudden they have all these AI things that are able to do it for you, like smooth cuts and things like that, and different audio editing. It's like, it's crazy how suddenly it's like, wow, that just saved me like 3 hours of time just throwing on this filter. That's great. So
yeah. I was gonna say something about AI, and then I lost it right as I was about to.
They took our jobs.
Yeah,
I don't know. The thing about AI too is like, and with the industrialization of the world, there's an adjustment to the work pool. But I feel like for us, it's just going to enable us to do much more interesting things faster, right? And to get to the part that really makes us unique. It's like if you're an editor, like doing the assembly versus doing the fine, like the fine is really where you can pull out the art. And so, yeah, if a tool can help you with the assembly, that's great, because then you can get to the art, the thing that makes you unique or special, or that you could do that, a computer can't do, or is different than another person. So I'm super stoked for that. I know John kind of uses it. And I've started using it this way because of John using it as like a creative idea, generator.
Max
just
is
throw something at it. Go ahead.
Max is our local pro at it, though. He's got
dude. He's like best friends
That's
with
crazy.
the AI.
I know.
He writes like children's storybooks. It's amazing.
So I remember what I was going to say, that the changing softwares and technology. That's a thing that where maybe AI could help. The analogy I would make would be to like coding, like different coding languages come out, and it's like, well, you maybe know the logic on how to like put something together, but I was just talking to a friend of mine who does a lot of developing and coding in his job. And he was saying like, yeah, I'm using AI a lot now because there's a certain project we're working on and there's this other language. And he's like, I don't have time to like learn that. I'm not going to learn some other thing. So I'm having the AI write a lot for me, and then I can like assemble it and troubleshoot and things like that. But like I can have it like write in that language for me. Because yeah, things are changing. You joked about Instagram, Alexis, and like there was a time some years ago where I had a much more solid handle on several social media platforms. And now I know, I mean, even the ones that I still use, the back end infrastructure has changed significantly. And you're just constantly like having to relearn, like, okay, well, how do I run these ads? How do I make this marketing work? Like, you have to keep changing. So like you can't just become like a master of something and just stay that anymore. Like you have to keep learning how to do the new thing. And sometimes that's very time consuming. And so I think some of it, like to tie AI into it, you could be like, okay, structure this thing for me in the way that it needs to be for this platform. I know what I want to do, and the details of how it has to go technically don't really matter. So just make that happen for me, and I'll do the other, thinking on this project.
What if, I mean, I love that. Like, as you're describing it, how we interact with ChatGPT, like, here's my video and here's my script, right? Like, so here's my script outline, or like, we want to start with this, hit these couple of points, and then end with this. And then you could put some other descriptors in there as well. Like, make sure to feature this subject a little bit more than this other. Like, essentially you write like a coded video script give it to the AI does your assembly, and then you can be like, all right, now I can actually do some art on top of this. I like it.
It's gonna be wild.
That'd be crazy. It feels like cheating
Let's
to me
sell it.
though. Let's
Yeah,
make it.
yeah.
But
My
yeah,
son-
I don't know if I could like ethically get behind it, you know? I mean, for efficiency's sake, if it was
Yeah.
something that was just like, I don't know, helpful. But if
So
it was changing things, I don't know, that'd be hard.
my son
No,
was
it's not
asking
changing
me.
any video or anything. It just creates the edit for you,
Oh, okay.
right? Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Like I wasn't AI generating somebody saying something. Like it's
Okay.
actually somebody's video that it cuts all together.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
That's Black Mirror style right there. Yeah.
Yeah. The
That's
other thing.
creepy.
Yeah. Cause then it's just a tool like any other. It's like, you know, your computer, and now we can have a conversation here and you can actually type and you can save your notes, as opposed to, yeah, we'd have to have meetings and write on paper and keep all that track of that stuff, you know? So
Mhm.
it's a computer is not taking away our job. It's just enhancing the way that we work. Right. So that's my
True.
pitch for the AI.
Doing well.
He's the hype man.
Yeah.
For AI.
We sell it. You heard it here. Actually, that's probably what Premiere or DaVinci has. One of them has like AI assembly. And I think you can type a transcript, or it'll transcribe, and then you can type in there and it will pull that stuff out for you.
It's good.
It's
Yeah,
cool stuff.
AI is crazy. They have, I mean, there's that new feature on Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom, where you can denoise things, and it uses AI to take a photo that is super, super grainy and then like denoise it to like, so it looks like a normal photo, which is really, really interesting. It's because you do it and it takes like 20 minutes to like render through this photo. But then the product that you get afterwards is insane. Like it looks like a perfectly lighted, beautiful image with no noise or anything. But then, but there is that kind of, yeah. But then it kind of, I don't know the ethics behind it. I heard from someone that it takes away your rights, like your copyright or whatever on it.
Yeah.
If you use that.
I mean, that kind of makes some sense though. So I'm going to share this. This is from our friends, Tim Olson and Brian. I'm like doxing them. I don't know. People know people. What the heck's Brian's last name?
Albert.
Thank you. Doxed. So these are our friends, and they travel, and they're actually doing a documentary about the death of the video store. So this is cool though. This is like Photoshop AI. He took this photo and he's like, okay, what is it? Remove the people behind it. Number 1, original pic. Number 2, remove guy in pink shirt. Ready? Guy in pink shirt, gone. This is Photoshop AI. Number 3, remove other people between us. So those 2 people, and gone. Number 4, add a dog. 5, remove strap on my shoulder. Strap gone, right through there.
Wow.
Let's see. And add a person in the far background. So now there's another person there. And then number 7, requested by Brian Alberth, make hands holding a baby goat.
What? Oh my god.
So like, dude, you can't trust anything you see.
Insane.
Yeah.
No, I took
Shout out to Tim Olson and Brian Alberth.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So
I was in oh, you can go.
We've barely scratched the surface of where all of that is going. And I don't know what point I'm trying to make. So one of the things that I have been finding in the last few years, and I wonder if this is true with you too, in like journalism, is my perception of the world is shifting a lot, because I understand from the work that we do and from learning about journalism, and we're learning about marketing and stuff, that yes, it takes some work. You were talking about, it was a lot of work to make that website and the social and stuff like that. But the point is that you were able to do it as one person and spin up this whole thing. So when friends of mine and family, when they share something to me now and they're like, well, check this out. I read this here. I read this. I saw this video or somebody sent me some information on it. I'm like, who is that? What is that? What's this website? Who are these people? I have no idea anything. Like, do you understand
What is
that?
real?
I'm like, do
Yeah.
you understand that we are able to do this? Like, I can spin up a website in an afternoon and I can write a whole bunch of stuff on it, with facts. But like, we're really getting into this like place of reality, like place in time right now where like the ability of other people, like I guess it's more like a responsibility thing that I feel. I'm like, man, I feel a heavy responsibility in marketing to be like, yeah, this is what we do. And like, do people know that like they're being marketed to in every aspect of their lives? And then, the playing around with AI, Photoshop and stuff like that. I'm just like, yeah, now it's even crazier because, yeah. So
Yeah.
comments, you got any?
No, it's really interesting because I took a documentary photography class this past semester, and we talked a lot about that because our assignments were to go out and take photos, and each week would have a different theme that we were trying to capture and a different style or photography, tactic, strategy, whatever. And I remember one of them was cropping. So even just not using Photoshop to take out anything, but just like cropping an image in or out. So very basic, but even that sometimes could be deemed as not documentary photography if you use that, because there was one photo I took that I was like, oh, this is my example of cropping. And it was at a ice rink, and I was trying to focus it on a skater, but there was like a little kid in the background, like literally on the side of the frame, like half cut out. I was like, I just cropped her out just a little bit. And my professor was saying that could kind of like whatever's changing the meaning of the photo is no longer considered documentary photography because and a big example of that is there was this image that went viral of Barack Obama, like at a explosion or something, or there's a power plant that was smoking. I don't remember what exactly the context was, but he was with an important government figure, and whoever was editing the photo for this magazine cut that person out and just had Barack Obama there. So it looks like he was isolated, his head was down. He obviously was saddened by whatever explosion or whatever was happening. And but when you see the two side by side, they do, like, it does change the way you view the photo, because in the one with the two people, you're like, oh, they're meeting and they're discussing this, and I don't know, kind of just those. It's a lot less isolating as it is when you look at just him. You're like, wow, when you see that photo, it's like he's alone looking at this explosion. It's dramatic. He's sad about it. Wow, what a great president. Like, there's different feelings you get from the two different photos just by cropping it. So, like, let alone taking people out or AI-ing goats into it. Like, that's just like totally different ballpark. And one of my professor too, he had two images side by side, and he was like, try to guess which one is AI, like which one's fake. That I just typed in, give me a picture of a giraffe. And then he had a real picture of a giraffe and then a fake one. And we had to try to guess what one was real. And it was hard. It was hard to find the real one. And I don't know, it's slightly concerning because I feel like people are already losing their grip on reality, and bringing this in is making things a lot more challenging.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And we could go down this rabbit hole forever. Ooh, we have Luke just posted. What is this? This is probably a relevant link. Oh, there you go. Thanks, Luke.
Is that the
producing
photo?
the show over here? Yeah, let me pull it up.
Yeah.
And while I pull it up, we will play the game, or we're going to play the game. I don't know if you're aware that we did this, 2 truths and a lie. So you have to come up with 3 short things about yourself, and one of them's a lie, and we got to guess it. So this is a good time, if you haven't already, to try to figure that out while I share this article over here. Here we go.
Oh, great. Okay, it's not an explosion. I forgot what he's looking at, but
There's like an oil well or something behind him.
yeah.
Where is it? There it is.
Oh, it was about an oil spill. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Catastrophic. The damage beyond the spill. Oh, yeah. What ended up happening? I don't know. TLDR. Come on, The Guardian.
Yeah.
All right.
It's there was the other example that makes me think of it in a documentary. I don't know if it was that same class or if it was like some other film history class, but there was one where we're studying the concept of cinema verite, documentary, real cinema, truthful cinema. Verite comes from that. And so I'm pretty sure that it was Salvador Dali. No, he made the weird films and he makes the dripping clock paintings. I don't remember if he was the one who made this documentary or if there was a different documentarian, but it was also like South American. And there's this one scene where there's these like this donkey is like going up this like cliff, and then it slips and it falls and like rolls down this cliff.
Oh gosh.
And we watch the scene, and then they stop or whatever, and they're like, okay, so what do you notice about this scene? People have various observations, and then the professor reminds everyone, points out to everyone, like, do you notice that there's 2 camera angles? And we watch it again, and they're like, there's 2 camera angles, and then they're like, they didn't have 2 cameras, they had 1 camera on the production.
Interesting.
Like,
of the donkey falling.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you're like, so that means in this documentary, supposed to be just filming this thing as it took place, they reset the camera after this event, hauled that donkey back up there and rolled it back down.
Oh no.
So they're like, and it was talking about like the lines between,
Yeah, hopefully it wasn't a new donkey.
Yeah. They're talking about the lines between, is it still documentary? Like the event did take place, but then they like added another camera angle and like dragged it back up there to make it happen again. There's even study, if you want to go to that extent, about similar to your photography cropping, about like even filming something, especially if you're being seen as the camera operator, is affecting the story that's unfolding. So that's why the sort of like voyeur documentary, some of those documentary filmmakers who try to like be more hidden were doing that just so that they could really capture reality without affecting it in some way, like letting people, because then people act differently or things happen differently if the camera is known to be there.
It's so
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's always fun. I feel like we're just getting into it, but we will do the 2 truths and a lie. You know what? I forgot because Luke is doing stuff. And thank you, Luke, for kicking ass. I forgot to do this.
2 truths and a lie.
It kind of came through glitchy.
Oh, wow.
It was kind of glitchy.
That was fun.
It was good for me.
Okay, good. It was glitchy on my side. Yeah, my internet's going crazy. We're gonna play 2 truths and a lie. Do you have the 3 things about yourself?
I do.
You're ready. Let's
I'm
do
ready.
it.
All right. Here we go. Okay. One time I was traveling up north. in Michigan, of all places, and I went ziplining off of the roof of a Starbucks. So that's one. Another one is when I was camping out west one time. I think it was in South Dakota. I woke up in my tent and unzipped it, and there was a buffalo there just hanging out. And that was crazy. And then we proceeded to stay
In your
hidden.
tent?
No, not in the tent, but like right outside, like right there. And then me and my family proceeded to hide in the camper for the remainder of the day. Because when we opened the tent, it wasn't close enough that it was dangerous. But then we ran into the camper because we thought that would be safer than a tent. So that's another one. And then one time we went out to Virginia, and I forgot what beach it was. One of the beaches out there in Virginia. We were swimming in the ocean. It was my first time in the ocean, and I got stung by a jellyfish on my neck, and it was horrible. But yeah, that happened. So those are my three things.
All right. Let's see. You were traveling up north in Michigan. You went ziplining off the roof of a Starbucks.
Yep.
Number one. Number two is when you're camping out west. You were in South Dakota. Buffalo outside tent. Had to hide in a camper. Ran into the camper. Thought it was safer.
Mm-hmm.
One time you went out to Virginia. First time in the ocean. Stung by a jellyfish on your neck.
Yep. Are you gonna grill me like they do on Jimmy Fallon?
A little. Yeah. How you feeling, John? Could you tell? Were you looking at our eyes?
I couldn't really tell, but I have a strong guess, I think.
Yeah. If you're at home too, go ahead and guess. We'll give you another 30 seconds or something.
I don't think I'm very good at lying.
Ooh,
well, they're good stories, and it wasn't sometimes there's a big giveaway because somebody makes like a very short statement and then the other ones are stories or whatever, or so yeah, I'm actually, I see some people like lean in different directions, but yeah, I don't tend to ask follow-up questions either, because I'm like, I just feel like that makes it, I guess it's part of the game, but to me, the analysis of like how they said it the first time is all that matters. Otherwise, it's just like grilling somebody until they give up and they can't. But I think the Starbucks is a lie. Mm-hmm. Granted, we were just getting started, but it took you a little bit to like gather yourself and get comfortable telling that story. And then it could be that there's like a partial truth that you ziplined, but it wasn't off of a Starbucks. Now, up north Wisconsin, there's a lot of quirky, weird things. And I don't know if that's the same in Upper Michigan. I don't know if you said Upper Michigan or if you said just Michigan. So there could be quirky things like that. But I'm thinking that is the lie, because you could just be stealing somebody else's story, but the other stories had enough detail and they seemed pretty effortless to tell. And you had a emotional memory reaction to the jellyfish story. That's my guess.
We've got Luke's guess is number 3, which is the jellyfish, and Max's guess is number 3, and I'm gonna go with number 3 too, because I feel like changing neck to like leg makes more sense. Like you were stung in the leg or stung, somewhere else. Like I don't know that I've ever really heard of anybody getting stung in the neck. That could be it. That could be a great lie. But
I mean, when you're swimming in the ocean and you're up to here.
Yeah, when you're just swimming amongst jellyfish, they can get you wherever.
They can.
So I'm gonna go with number 3 with the other people. So John's got number 1. No one's got number 2. We believe you about buffaloes.
The buffalo.
Yeah. So now you may reveal the lie.
I reveal the lie. The lie is, drum roll, the jellyfish. I was not stung by a jellyfish.
Oh, you weren't?
No, I was not. I did go swimming in the ocean.
Nice.
And I saw jellyfish, but I didn't get stung. But yeah, I went ziplining off of the roof of a Starbucks in Upper Michigan.
That's great.
It's still there. I looked it up the other day. It's still a functioning zipline place. Yeah, and
Nice.
then we ran into Buffalo and South Dakota. So
Yeah, the third one, I felt it too. Like you sold the heck out of that, and I was like, but it wasn't on your neck. Nobody gets stung in the neck.
it's possible. I actually heard a story of someone getting stung in the face, but I was like, that might be a little too intense if I shared that. So I went with the neck.
If you double down on it though, you're like, yeah, I got stung in the face. You've seen that scar that I have, right?
Yeah.
You know, that was from the jellyfish. And then we're like, oh, did we miss that?
See the scar? I do have a scar
Yeah.
under my eyebrow.
Oh, do
But
you?
you wouldn't be able to see it. I do.
See, you need a scar like across your eyebrow that gives you like a cool little cut that makes you look badass, like that one singer.
Yeah, that would probably be really easy if someone had a very visible scar. Whenever they
Mhm.
shared two truths and a lie, they could just talk about, "That's not how I got my scar," but like make up
Yeah.
all these stories.
Fighting a guy with a knife. All right. Well, that's what we got for today. We do kind of like to wrap it up, keep it like an hour and a half. We'll definitely do another one because I feel like we're just starting to get into the fun stuff, especially the nerdy stuff,
Good
which
stuff.
I don't get any. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies, but I'm going to absolutely pitch them so that you read these books. Let's see. What do we want to plug? We've got Steve Donovan, who's actually a videographer and editor who teaches at Madison College. He's coming on in a couple weeks, and we've got Chelsea Bowers, who's a marketing person there, who we've done so much creative work with at Madison College. So those are two upcoming episodes that we have. We got a couple more on the docket. What else? Anything else we want to plug?
It's kind of a client project, but it's also one of ours. The Dare to Believe series would be a cool thing to plug. You should go check it out. You can just Google Dare to Believe series. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. First episode, we're hoping it's the first of many, is out, and it's really great. It's something that we did with the diocese here in Madison. We're really proud of it. It's pretty fun. Speaking of documentary filmmaking.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Here, I'll throw it in chat for everyone too, so then you can click on it. All right. Well, that's what we got. Alexis, thanks so much for coming on, even though we told you, hey, you got to come on. You're an intern.
You're coming.
Say.
It was my honor. Happy
That's
to be
what I
here.
like to hear. Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone. Aaron, Max, for people for hanging out. This is a podcast, so do check out. Where is that? Let's see. letsbackflip.com/whatever. Letsbackflip.com show, or Let's Backflip show, or Happy Hour show. We are wherever podcasts are sold. That's what we got. Thanks for hanging out. See you next time. Bye.